The thing is, nobody would allow that from an average employee,
No.
right? They'd be gone. So
Okay.
why do we allow it from performers? Leading Ain't Easy, the show that cuts through the noise and gets real about leadership. I'm Ryan Calkins, Marine Corps veteran and founder of Reframe and Rise, and I'm here with my good friend and fellow leader, John Moore, as we unpack the highs, lows, and hard-earned lessons of what it actually takes to lead with character in today's world. It's not another highlight reel or fluffy leadership pep talk. We're talking about the stuff most people don't, the doubt, the pressure, the people problems, the pivots, and the personal growth that it demands. Because the truth is, leadership looks good on paper, but in real life, leading ain't easy. Welcome back to Leading Ain't Easy. Today we wanted to talk about the idea of when your best employee becomes the problem.
And when this topic came up, it really kind of made me think about it. I was like, golly, have I had these instances? But it also made me think about all the history that I work with other companies. Yes, this does occur. When has it happened to you, or has it happened to you?
Yeah, no, it's tough because I'd say, I think more, it's been a problem for me when I come in somewhere and you first meet people, you see what they bring to the table, not necessarily who they are, but what they bring to the table. They deliver, they know the operation. They, a lot of times, in the cases I've had, they've been there longer than you. They know how everything functions. They, other people rely on them, et cetera, et cetera. Problems that I've had is once you start to get to know some of these people, that's where it's like, okay, well, you're doing these things, but it doesn't mean you're doing it the right way. Or you start to see things that make them difficult to work with, or other things to where it just becomes problematic. And if you come in as a superior for this person, there's a dynamic that you need that really is balancing who this person is with what you need them to do. But also, when you have somebody that knows more than you do in the job, that in itself can be a problem when they are full of themselves.
Exactly. Now, for me, as we kind of did our pre-show, I was thinking, no, I've not had this before, and I'm glad I haven't. Unfortunately, they were bad when they started, be bad when they leave. But I find that I always, and I want to pose this question first before we get even more into it. I wonder, how does the dynamic shift to where they know more than you, or they have that empowerment? I wonder, where does the controls, and I know people are not going to like that word, the controls kind of either change, or they have been released from the leadership, that another person is now taking on such the responsibility like they do. I wonder what happens. Can you think of a time when you've seen that could have happened, and how that could have happened?
I don't know if it was necessarily leadership not doing anything. I think it's just as people learn, they become more comfortable in what they're doing. And when they become more comfortable, they become more confident. And for some people, that confidence turns into arrogance, right? And cockiness. And I think the longer somebody's there, when you first come in, those are the people that you rely on because you're new. You don't necessarily know everything. And this person or people are running away with everything. And you kind of give them that freedom to continue to do so while you get up to speed. And it's as you become more familiar and comfortable and confident, then you start to realize, okay, well, this isn't right. I don't like what this person is doing. I don't like this. I don't like that. And then it's the balance of, okay, well, this person that I've been reliant on is a problem. And how do I deal with this? Because they could still very well know more than you do and have more influence than you do because you're new. And again, this is my situation where I came in and I was new. For others, it could be, you came up with this person and both developed over time, and or you were a manager and this person was there the same time, and whatever reason they are starting to become a problem. I think it's just, for me, it was awareness and learning more in what I was doing, and then realizing, okay, well, I don't like the way that this is happening or what this person is doing in order to accomplish what they are doing.
And I think for me, as I'm listening to you and agreeing with you, I also look at it from a different side of it too, to where I'm looking at leadership, maybe not being new, but leadership, because my mind always goes into the stressing sometimes of leadership where they're so overwhelmed and they're like, okay, good, you have that, I got this, and we kind of divide and conquer, but
Mhm.
not knowing in the divide and conquer what you're creating. Because a lot of the time, speaking from experience, when I divide and conquer, I don't necessarily go back to figure out what did you learn, what are you doing. I'm just glad it's being taken care of. That was my fault. My fault. Instead of saying, okay, so tell me what you did today, how did you fix that, blah blah blah. So now I've learned, now I'm in the loop of what has happened. I was just glad, okay, you have that. I'm dealing with the executives. You deal with the staff. We'll rock and roll. We'll come back and say, okay, all was well. We had a good day and we keep it rocking. But never did I, and I have seen leadership do this too, really get back involved in figuring out, okay, what did you do? Tell me how you did it. Tell me how you came up with that. Who were your contacts, right? Really getting into that granular part, because what you're doing, and forgive me for using the word again, but you're losing of your power. You're losing of that sense of your leadership in a sense, because now they're gaining tidbits of things that you will never know. You may know stuff from the executive level, but you also need to know stuff from this level too. And
Mhm.
you need to be able to be balanced in that. And I think a lot of times I've seen it with my own eyes and also experienced it, that we're so happy that we have someone we could depend on, that then in turn, they're just, and I know that they're doing it. I've seen the person that did it that I'm thinking about, just was gathering and gathering and gathering. And then when it's time for you to, I don't have that. I didn't do it that way. And it's like, well, how did you do it? And then you're sitting there in the loss
Yeah.
because they figured it out or they made that contact. And now you're like, okay, well, I need for her and then now you are codependent, or you are held hostage by that employee because they have access to something that you don't. And I don't like that. Every company I've ever
Mhm.
gone to, I've always advocated no staff will hold us hostage. We need to cross train people. We need to know what folks are doing, because when you do that, when you allow for that information not to have an exchange back and forth, where it's from management to employee or employee back to management or peer to peer, you're screwed. You are literally screwed, because they know they got the dime on you, because if they leave, they're leaving with that information and they're leaving with that book of information.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, as you were talking about that, there was an episode before where Ernie and I had discussed something similar. It wasn't the same topic, but it was an issue that he was dealing with or had been exposed to, where somebody under him had a relationship, not romantic, just
Yeah.
had a relationship with one of his superiors, which was making things difficult because it's like he was trying to do his job, but also being undermined in what he was doing. And it's another piece of a high performer or somebody that has sway that is able to get away with things, and it just puts you in an awkward position as a leader, because it's like, well, how much can I let this person get away with and have this bad behavior because they perform?
They perform. Or here's another one I thought of when you were talking. Um, they're either of age of the staff, you're of a different age of the staff, or you have not connected with the staff. They're connected, so therefore you're like, okay, well, you tell them this, blah, blah, blah. When it's time for you to get something done, it's like hell and fire to get them done. But when they ask to get it done, they're on it and get it done right, because they like how you approach them. They like this, they like that. And because they have a different relationship than you may have. Now that's a management flaw. You need to figure out how you get that same relationship. But until you do, you're stuck. You're stuck in that situation where, again, you don't have the power, you don't have the sway, you don't have the relationship that you need with your staff to get things done. So, the reason why I'm loving this conversation is because I want to tell our listeners that it is so important for a leader not to just pass off things or delegate things. I learned this early part of my leadership. Don't just delegate, don't just pass things off, because you really put yourself in a worse situation. Look at what you're not learning. Look at what you're not involved in. Look at what you're not gaining. And then when that person leaves, whether it's in a good situation or a bad situation, you are still in the dark and you don't have that information that they had or they took with you. And then when it's time to say, okay, the last 2 weeks, we're going to have you sit with so and so and deep, like download. They ain't
Mhm.
downloading nothing. And you're sitting there like, we ain't have none of that information, none of that insight that we need. And That's unfortunate, but that's a lot of times because somebody feels like I got the upper hand on them.
Yeah, well, and I mean, there's situations where when you confront that person, there's a very real risk that
Mhm,
like you're mentioning, it'll lead to problems with the operation tomorrow. So when do you finally pull that Band-Aid off and have that discussion at the real risk of loss, as you said?
mhm, and I think too to that, I think to be in that spirit of preparation, you don't get there. You have to remember that the job of the leadership is to, and I know this sounds real crazy, but you need to know everything. You need to know it as best as you can. I've always been one to say, sit with my trainers. I want to know what they're training. I want to know how they're doing it. I want to know that what they're teaching. So if I have to teach, I train. But if you are, oh, I'm the manager and you guys are doing this, and which I've seen a lot in my career, you're going to screw yourself because you're not going to be prepared for those moments to where you're not able to do what needs to be done. And leadership above you has that expectation. They do
They do, but a lot of times the leadership above you are the ones that are saying, "We can't afford to lose this person."
because they're keeping all of the stuff together. So it seems, yes. That's why we can't have that one person again holding us hostage. I know that sounds harsh, guys, but as you are managers and you're leaders, you will respect and understand that. We cannot be held hostage by our staff. We have to figure out how do we level that playing field. It cannot be where somebody has more knowledge than you and you're left to dry and you're just sitting there with your hands like because you don't know what to do.
Well, especially so when it becomes the behavioral stuff,
Yes,
which is typically the reason why
it's
this
getting
type of employee is who it is, right? Or so, the thing is, like, nobody would allow that from an average employee,
no,
right? They'd be gone. So why
exactly
do we allow it from performers?
because they perform. And that's the sad part. I mean, the thing of it is that so let's go back into sales when I did the mortgage industry. If somebody's a producer and they're making 100 or 1 point something million dollars, they're getting anything they want. Anything they want. They're not working from home. They're working from home. They're not coming into the office. They're not following the policies like they need to because they're making business money, which should not be the reasoning why. And then also look at what it's doing to morale. People are thinking, well, that's lowering morale. And then you have sales folks say, well, that's increasing morale because everybody wants to be like that performer. But then when you get multiple of those people, now you got multiple people with behavior issues, not following policy, not doing what they're supposed to do. So it's you got to nip it at the bud before it gets out of control. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I was thinking, so like even with high sales performers that
Mhm.
everybody wants to be like, that doesn't I mean, I guess I'd argue that it doesn't necessarily boost morale. It may boost competition, but I feel like those that aren't at that level still see the same result that, oh, this person is getting preferential treatment, which would
Right.
seem more detrimental.
And it can go both ways. You can have some folks, like you said, that are go-getters and they look at that and say, I'm gonna, do that too. And you have the other one who's struggling and trying to get there, and they're saying also, well, he doesn't have to be on time, or he doesn't have to, sit at his desk. All those other things. So there now we're seeing this imbalance. But that's also what high performers also do.
Well, right, but when you would apply punishments and reprimands to average employees, but you're not doing that to your performers, not only does it set a bad example, but it also shows everybody exactly what your standards are, right?
It does, but then look at the company. Now we got to go company culture, company dynamic. You can probably even go to HR and say blah blah blah. But then if the CEO is about making money, she's going to say, "Well, you know what? It's all about making money. They're all doing what they're supposed to do. I let them do blah blah blah. I've seen it." And it's a hard pill to swallow because what you're saying is absolutely correct. The morale, the policy, the HR, all these different components in it are all looking and their heads are spinning because they're trying to deal with this influx of personnel policies and procedures that are not being followed. And you got one group of people that you want to chastise and they're not on time. And then you got another group, oh, whatever you come in. No, that's not cool. But that happens. And it's not cool, but it happens. And it's sad. But it's always unfortunately about something. If money was not involved, would you do the right thing? And the question will be, yeah, if it wasn't involved, but I'm going some money. So they're gonna do what they want to do.
So that's what leads to the one type of a person that we're referring to as the indispensable asshole, right? That knows, oh, well, I can't be fired. I'm too important. So it leads to belittling and, like you said, showing up whenever you want. Like their customers usually love them because they don't know.
Slapping other employees in the office, coming to work intoxicated, but you're the top producer. You're making 100 grand in this office. And this is a small office. It's not a big national conglomerate. So yes, this is real life. It's happening.
And in the situations I've seen with that type of person, there's enough complaints internally that upper management will have little conversations here and there, but they never have the conversation that actually makes a difference or pushes that person out because they're
Mm-mm.
too important, right?
Important because think about it. The owner or the CEO knows this name. They know they're making 1 point something million. They know they're bringing in 100,000, that one person. So you let them go, you have let go a chunk of their asset. So it really puts someone in a rock and a hard space, and it really F's that manager up a lot because they're trying to manage this employee and they can't even manage them because they're a top producer. And there lies that holding them hostage. They know you won't do anything to them. They're like, okay, I'll just find me another job. And it's like, now everybody's like, wait, wait, wait. We didn't say you need to leave. You're just saying you need to come in on time. Well, I don't want to come in on time. And then they start playing the role. So my thoughts are you try your best to again level the playing field so it does not get to that point of out of control. Got to keep everybody on the slow and flow. It's like, okay, yeah, you make oh great, but you still got to be here on time. Great, but you still got to fill out these documents. Every loan or every sale, you still got to do boom, 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 like everybody else. Well, why I got to do that? You see, I'm your top producer because it's policy. If you don't do that, then if you don't set those precedents and culture, you're gonna be screwed. As soon as you slip up, they're gonna get that intention in their mind, thinking, "But I'm a top producer. Why I got to do all of this?"
So, as a leader,
Hmm.
how do you get over that fear of potential loss by cutting ties with somebody that is creating toxicity in your workplace?
That's a hard one. Because think about this, you're a leader and you're also in your ears, your leadership. Because
Mhm.
again, they know that name, they know that person's a producer, and they're like, oh, get Johnny a break. I just heard he had a kid, blah, blah, making excuses for the behavior. I've seen it. What do? You're in a rock and a hard space. I've seen managers leave because they felt like I couldn't get anywhere. And that's a bad situation to be in because you cannot manage your staff. You just can't.
Right. So when that person's output is exceptional, but it's
Mhm.
damaging everybody else and you see it, is it a matter of having enough goodwill and trust built up with leadership to say, look, I need to get this person out. We are going to suffer a setback, but we'll recover within 3 months, 6 months. I mean, what argument would you make to push past it?
I think it would be, and that's a good one too. I think because first thing that came to mind is how egregious the incident is. If it's something that's such a to a point of egregious, and I use that word specifically, if it's something that's so egregious, you will hopefully have HR and upper leadership to support you because now we're talking about lawsuits. Now we're talking about even greater loss than just the loss of the employee and what they bring in, right? So therefore, you may now have the attention, but it has to be something that is just that big. If it's minute, they're not gonna push it as much because 'cause they're still looking at dollars and cents.
True, but most of the time, there is no egregious event that leads to a termination. I mean, there are for sure.
Sexual harassment, it could have been a rape,
Right.
charge, be any of those kind of things. Go ahead.
But most of the time, it's just
Just
this high
behave.
performer, right? It's the behavior that continues to go unchecked, and it gets to a point to where it is so bad that if you don't get this person in line, like you're screwed. So maybe it's not forcing them out, but you have to start documenting and holding this person accountable. And they will hoot and holler and go wherever they can to try to make you look bad. And then what? It's like you either get run out or
Mhm.
they get in line.
And I think it's more the run out than, unfortunately, than they get in line, because that's where the rubber hits the road. And is my management skills and knowing my policies and procedures going to uphold my decision making of disciplining a person where this person could leave us? That's something that they're going to weigh, because you got to understand, unfortunately, and I know you know this, people are greedy. They're looking at dollars and cents. And so if this person or persons are really kicking butt and making those numbers, is always making them hit the billion. I mean, I remember we were for mortgage shop, they was making 1 point something billion a month in mortgage loans. And all of those kids was making that money for them. So it's like, they weren't trying to hear it. They weren't trying to hear it. So I mean, you become this rock in the hard space. And so what I've also seen is people just acquiesce. They just be like, look, I'm getting paid too. If they don't care, I don't care. And that's a bad mentality to have, but it's a reality. But to your point, yeah, if it was in a regular world, yeah, of course, we'll be able to do things. But that will be in a regular world where, again, policies and procedures were followed, where you had the support of leadership, the people who own the company, and all those good things. But when you're talking about making money and everything is about money, if it's in the sales world or it's about a money driven, not a service type world, wow, you're talking about a huge defeat. And it feels just like how you thinking, it feels awful, because your hands are tied, and this employee knows it. They know they're a top producer and they take advantage of it.
They do.
I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Yeah, and then you get pinched for trying to do the right thing.
You're doing the right thing. And now you're the booger. Now you're the, oh, don't talk around John. He's going to talk to HR about you. And then now you become the one that everyone is looking at as being like the outsider. And you're like, I'm just doing my job. Seen it. It's no joke. And it is sad. It is. It's quite sad.
Well, I have seen other leaders that they get in that position and then they become jaded because there's nothing that they can do, and they're like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna get this paycheck and coast from here."
Because,
Which
yeah, which is sad.
and I don't know, I struggle because I can't do that, you know?
Uh-uh. Uh-uh.
But I also it's hard for me to just cut ties and bail too.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a battle that is worth fighting, but it is exhausting.
It's extremely exhausting, especially when there's no end. See, you're looking for an end because of your world. There's an end. Something's going to happen.
Well, in my mind there is for sure.
Okay, good. You'll buy it. What, right? But sometimes in this realistic world, there is no end. And in my diverse career, I've seen sales, I've seen service, I've seen every level of it. And sales is the worst. They are the worst. Sorry, guys, but y'all know I'm not lying. Sales is the worst. If it's about them bringing in money and it's a small outfit or a large outfit and they're trying to make their goals, that manager will start to sit back and like, you know what? I'm getting my commission off of them. I'm not going to care less, and won't. And you kind of get to a point in saying, I get it. Because if you're not getting the support from the leadership that you're supposed to,
No, I agree. I think for me, that's where a lot of the kind of trying to find historical context and why things are the way they are now has been beneficial in seeing how stuff developed and being able to talk to people that have been there longer and watched it, and leadership that is willing to share, and knowing that it isn't a quick resolution, because if you go in guns blazing, that's the quickest way for you to end up getting screwed. And I have been that person that has gone down in a blaze of glory. So what I've tried to do since is look more long term. How can I guess, strategically transition the change that I want using this person as kind of, I don't want to say the tool, but being able to slowly adapt and take what they are giving you. And I don't necessarily want to say use it against them, but kind of use it against them in a way to force the change without I guess, direct confrontation. And I don't mean that by like,
Mm-mm.
kind of scooting around the edge of everything. Like you're having direct conversations, but it's not like ultimatum type conversations. It's more trying to coach without being condescending, which is difficult with somebody that is full of themselves to begin with and already doesn't care what you have to say, but it's trying to find things that they relate to and motivate them. The successful attempts that I've had is using them as, I guess, tools to kind of foster that change in getting them on board as pseudo leadership, if that makes sense, and exhibiting behaviors that others can model and talking up ways to progress. And it's more difficult with sales where a lot of times you don't want to get promoted because you're making a ton of money. That's not my avenue. It's never where I've been. But in operations, being able to use people that are that mindset and helping to, I don't want to say form them. It makes it sound like I'm manipulating, but it's more leveraging their skills to try and help them become better
Mm-hmm.
at their job in terms of leadership that is really what you want other people to emulate and not the bad stuff that you're allowing them to get away with.
And as you're thinking, my response immediately was, "There's going to be a catch-22. You're going to have one that you are able to start to pull back their responsibilities, right? They're going to then start seeing, this is the other side. They're going to start seeing, I'm doing less. I'm doing less. Hey, what's going on?" So you might have, when you're pulling back some of those responsibilities, some of those meetings, some of those reports, whatever it may be, you want to start pulling some of those things back. That person's going to start recognizing that. And then they're going to be like, now I'm getting bored. Now I have anything to do. They're going to want to go anyway because they don't have what they had before, which was the feeling of the carte blanche. I have access to these reports. I know this, I know that. Now, all those things are being pulled away, using your example, because now you're trying to pull back their responsibilities in a sense so that therefore, because I know you're not doing your best, your performance, excuse me, you're performing at a level by doing the job great, but your employee performance is at a lower level. So I'm trying to pull things back from you so we can get this performance level up. They ain't gonna see it that way.
We talking about the high performer?
Yeah,
No,
same
no,
scenario.
I didn't mean to imply pull like responsibilities away. I meant pull like information and
Oh, okay.
kind of leverage that person to help start to share that knowledge and kind of put them into a
Kind of a
like
cross
pseudo
train.
leadership position to where they are starting to get more positive authority, but then letting them know and coaching like, hey, by doing this, people see this, da da da, and trying to coach them into the behaviors that you need from this person.
Come to be.
Yeah.
And I think that that could be great. I'll still hold on to the catch-22 scenario because for me, I would want to pull some of their responsibilities back until they increased in their attendance and all these other things, right? Because my excuse would be, the writer would be, is that you have too many things on you that maybe it's too much on you and you're preoccupied. That's how I probably would try to lead it with it, right? So let me pull some of these things back, your reports, your this, your that, and maybe let's get you back on a level playing field. Well, I've seen to where that could have very well been, again, the time when someone is saying, well, I don't have anything to do now. Behavior still continues to be poor because now morale has gone down because they're not doing what they did before. They don't have access to the same stuff that they have. So it's like, that's why I say what I was saying earlier, try your best to get a hold of these things early. Even if, to your example, you're new and you're seeing these things. I used to make statements and sometimes it would get in trouble, but I would say, yeah, I like to manage those things. I would say that from the get-go
Hmm.
because I want them to know, yeah, you might be doing those now, but I like to have my hands on those things. I like to be able to get more engrossed into it. Oh no, I used to do it. Oh no, I appreciate you doing it, but at one point you're going to transfer it over to me
Hmm.
because I need for them to know I want to be in the loop too. And again, it can go either way. I've seen it. One of my good love her to death. We're still friends. One of my good leaders, I would say, I'll pull this back. Oh no, I could do it. And you could just see how it felt like it was just depleting her. Because she functioned and moved based on this chaos of all these things she had to do, and which she was good in managing it. But to feel balance, which this is the same one I said we would divide and conquer, because we would divide and conquer. But I would very seldom say, okay, what did you do? Because I knew she handled it, which was always my thing. I should have not done. I should have been like, okay, now tell me what you did. How did it go? Boom, boom, boom. Because I knew she got it. And that's great to feel like that, but it's not always good just to feel like that and leave it that way. Because it could lean up to having a person who gets cocky, who gets to having problem issues, and then you can't do anything with them.
Yeah.
And now
No.
you're screwed because now you're stuck. So I would really advise. I mean, let's talk about this. What would you advise? Would you advise like where I'm thinking I'm going in reference to being proactive when you see it, do something about it immediately, or do you think you are going to kind of see how it plays out and then it becomes a major problem? Then we want to do something. What do you think?
It depends because when I'm the one coming in, I usually observe for a
So
while. Like I want to see the dynamics. I want to see how everybody reacts and responds and treats each other and who knows what, both in a process application type of capacity, but also in how they treat other people, how they interact, what their team building is like,
mhm,
what they're sharing and teamwork and everything else. And I observe for a while and then I start to have conversations, like initial conversations on observations that I've had and work with them to talk about goal setting and stuff like that. But not like I hate to say it like that sometimes because I don't just sit down. I'm like, well, John, this is what I've seen from you the last 6 months. Da da da
mhm,
da da.
mhm.
But it's more most of the observations I keep to myself, right? But I do let them influence where the goal setting and the thing that they need to accomplish comes out through that.
Yeah.
Um, what was your question?
More of, do you think being proactive or reactive? You said you thinking doing the goal setting, putting those things up front. Go ahead, I'm listening.
For me, initially, when I first come in, it's more reactive because I want to observe, I want to see, I want to get a lay of the land, and then from there, I move into proactive and really helping to shape how I need my team to be, how I need people to work together, the knowledge share that we need, and moving together. Also, if I come in at a level that isn't, if I don't have any responsibilities for other people, then I can come in and be more proactive. But I also want to see the environment because I've, been that young employee that comes in, I'm hard charging, ready to go, and then nobody else wants to move. So then I become that person. So I think that there's a balance between reactive and proactive. But anytime that I'm trying to implement change and bring, whether it's cultural, whatever, you have to be proactive because being completely reactive, you're not going to get anywhere.
Who do you think is at fault the most? This is a burning question. Who do you think is at fault the most? And I'm using that word specifically. Who do you think is at fault the most that this employee has gotten to this place? The behavior issues, the accolades. Who do you think is the one that's really at fault?
Whoever allowed it to develop to begin with. I mean, it could be that person's direct supervisor, or maybe that supervisor left because of the way the employee and everything else is. I think a lot of times it's in the small companies that I've been in, it's definitely on ownership that allows things to develop and go unchecked. For larger companies, it's hard to say that it's ownership or the executive level because they're so far removed from everything that every department, division, site are completely different.
Yeah, they run like their own islands, their own
Yeah, and
company.
they think that everything is exactly the same no matter where they go, but it's not. It's the individual general manager or whoever it is at the site that allows for that culture to be the
To
way
be.
that it is.
Be. Um, I agree with you. And then I also put some onus on the responsibility of the employee. I question, was that their intention, right? To come in, some people come in with a plan. Was it their intention to come in that way? and do that. Some people are very observant. They can see where they can manipulate, where they can, do things and make it rock and roll. I look at it that way, some responsibility. I look at ownership of that leadership themselves, that they saw something, they knew that something was off, but they elected to go, dang, but this is a top performer, and they didn't do anything about it. And then I go on the company side. So I think there could be multiple parties that are responsible for the behavior, um, because it's unfortunate to celebrate someone with poor behavior. You should celebrate someone with across the board. But I know that many times I've seen it's like, yeah, I know I'm late, but look, I made my goal. I can hear it in my ears. I can hear them saying it. But I made my goal. I made you $1 million. Isn't that not good enough?
But that's where you gotta coach on, okay, yeah, you made us $1 million, but you cost us another million and other employees that are disgruntled or whatever. And I think that's really what I was trying to get to before, is helping that individual understand to raise their own standard and contribute as a team, because not only do they still mostly maintain their own numbers and what they bring to the table, they make everybody else around them better. And when everybody else is better, the team is better, the company is better, everybody is more productive. And those are the people that can end up being amazing leaders
And
because they're already great at what they do.
you're right. And I'm going to kind of be devil's advocate here. And it's like, but that's not normally always. If you have a competitive person, a competitive department, or competitive, whatever it may be, they're not thinking about anybody else but themselves. So you come in with that philosophy, which is so freaking great, right? To take that energy, mold it, now, spread it out across the group, and everybody should, they don't care. I just made $1 million.
Right. I mean, you can still have individual rewards and benefits.
Hmm.
So I think that you can have, I don't even want to say friendly competition. You can have it be a competitive environment, but you don't want the competition to be detrimental to the goal.
But unfortunately, and I know I'm talking to a world that's not yours, sales, where this is like I've seen more primary, and I've seen it in operations too, where you have, let's say, a lead who really knows everything because she's been there the longest or he's been there the longest. I've seen it there, but I've seen it more harshly and more realistically in sales, that what you're saying would be great, but it would not always work because they're only thinking of the bottom line. How much money?
Well,
Because
it doesn't always work for
no.
sure.
But it's a great idea. It's really a normal idea. I mean, what you're saying is great, but it's unfortunately in this world where people are driven by money, especially this generation. I see, you start talking about money, or oh, how can I make it? How can I make it? They're gonna want to make the money. And they could give a balls about, okay, what that's doing to your and my morale. They could care less. But I think it still goes back to, again, like we said, and I agree with what you're saying. I just wanted to give another opinion and look at it. It's different industries, different philosophies, different cultures, because everyone is not of that same culture is thinking team oriented. They're just not even thinking about it. Self driven, and which is why the behavior is that, because they're selfish, unfortunately.
I do want to clarify that somebody being blunt isn't necessarily toxicity in itself, right? And
Or
you
being,
want people, yeah, direct, but you want people to disagree, and it's not insubordination just because somebody doesn't agree with what you're saying.
I think it's
So,
how you
yeah,
do it. Isn't that? I think it's how you do it. Would you agree on that? Would you be? Because I think, to your point, I agree with you. But isn't it how you go about doing it and where you're doing it
it is. I mean, I guess there's still a level of tact in
and
the
respect?
disagreement, but I guess what I'm getting at is somebody being unpleasant to work with isn't necessarily creating a toxic environment. And I just want
Okay.
to
Okay.
differentiate that, because some of the things that we've been talking about with behavioral stuff, like if somebody just sucks to be around, it doesn't necessarily make them a bad employee, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah. Well, and yes, but then also someone could assess it as that because that's their opinion of that. That's not what we're talking about right now, but someone could assess it that way and still feel like they're like, they really suck. Every time we turn around, we're in the meeting, they're interrupting you. You can't even get a full thought out. Or, they always are going against you. Or you have that too. And it's just unfortunate. But I think those, again, you have to have a proactive approach with it. And I think that I want people to, yeah, bring your ideas, but I also always want you to be respectful. I want you to be disciplined, that you're identifying the audience and the environment, because it's not just you. Yes, you have an opinion. You might even have passion around your opinion, but you also have to think about how people are receiving that opinion as well, or that thought.
I agree. I guess the thing that matters the most is how that person is impacting. Like
Yes.
they can be unpleasant, but
Hmm.
still not be disruptive. Well, you know what I mean? Like you can have somebody that is gruff, but they're not necessarily disrupting the team and damaging the impact of what the team can accomplish or what the company can accomplish. I think when that impact is detrimental is the point to where it's like, okay, we have to stop this now. If this person leaves, it's going to suck.
But we got to do what we got to do. Yeah. And that's in a more, hopefully, normal service driven, operations driven environment. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And,
that's all I really know.
mhm. And I'm with you on that too. But I've just seen so often on the sales side, it's just scary. It really, really is. Cause you're like, wow, they're doing what? And it's because they were bringing money in and then making commissions off that 1.2. Just think about the commissions off of 1.2.
I don't want
Thank
to.
Yeah, I know that's right. Yeah. Just think about the damn commissions on $1.2 million that they made. I remember hearing numbers, oh, we made 3.5 billion. Like 3.5 billion in loans. I'm like, what? Wow. And that's one person on a team of maybe 30 people making 1.2. Stupid. Ridiculous money. So of course it's going to beget arrogance. Of course it's going to bring in all those things we're talking about. But no, I agree with you. I think that a person is not. We shouldn't label or wouldn't label a person who speaks up or is a little there's another word I wanted to use. It's just not as delicate or not as savvy with their speech and tone, or tonality. Yeah, I think we give them a little break. But at the same time, if we see this becoming excessive or abusive, we got to say something, because it's like it will become disruptive over a period of time.
Yeah. No, for listeners, I just want to have you take a moment, think about the person on your team that gets the longest leash and why do they get it? Have they earned the trust or
Mm.
have you become dependent on them?
And what does it really make you feel like when you see it, when you observe it? How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel like the left man out? Does it make you feel like you want to accomplish that and be that person? Or does it make you want to feel like the opposite? I think that's something else we need to look at our own selves and say, what are we all striving for? Are we striving for that type of lack of discipline? Or are we striving to be disciplined and enjoy what we do? I think that's something else to think about too.
And if someone else on your team behaved exactly the same way, would you tolerate it?
Would it be from a company standpoint? And that's something that we need to ask all of us. And I think what we were discussing, I'm asking the audience too. Think about the approach. Do we want to be proactive or do we want to be reactive when it comes to these types of things? And as we both agree on, we want to be reactive to a degree, because then we want to be proactive so we can nip it in the bud. The reactiveness is that we've learned what's happening and then we want to react to it so we can fix it. And then we're ordering in the future to make sure things are fixed so we don't have those problems that continue to persist. So think about how you want to approach it as well. Yeah. Well, hey, we enjoyed this conversation. Hope you did as well. We would love to hear from you. So please comment, like, subscribe. We would love to hear from you. Any ideas? Please bring them to us. This is our forum as well as your forum.
So until next week, leading ain't easy.
But you don't have to do it alone.
Thanks for tuning in to Leading Ain't Easy. If something in today's episode resonated, please do us a favor and share it with someone else who leads or aspires to lead. Because honestly, none of us have this figured out, but we can all get better together. If you're a leader or professional feeling quietly stuck in your career, visit reframerise.com. It's a career and leadership coaching firm where I work with veterans and other high achievers to realign their work and lead with purpose. Again, that's reframerise.com. And if you're looking for leadership tools, training, or support for your transportation department, check out Bus Pro Network, where Ernie helps school transportation leaders across California build safer, stronger teams. Please subscribe wherever you listen, leave a review, and let us know what topics you'd like us to tackle in the future. And remember, leading ain't easy, but you don't have to do it alone.